After a terrible loss at St. James's Park over the weekend, Manchester United fans are on full tilt, ready to be done with Ruben Amorim, ready to get rid of him after only half a season, and fans, you are the problem. Your expectations, your lack of patience, your response to these types of games are the problem at Manchester United. The Glazers aren't innocent, Ineos is not innocent, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's not innocent, even Ruben Amorim's not innocent. But right now, you, the fans, you are the problem. I'm going to tell you why next, here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub. How did you think this was going to go? That Ruben Amorim was just going to saddle into Old Trafford and toss a 3-4-3 out there and everything was going to be great and they were going to win a bunch of games and ride that horse all the way into a Champions League spot? I kind of think that's true. I don't think I'm exaggerating here because that seems to be the expectation and that's the problem. Ruben Amorim coming in mid-season was terrible. By all accounts, it was a terrible move for Amorim, it was a terrible move for United, and it's coming to a head now as this awful, but admittedly awful season for United wind down. But the problem is not with Amorim, it's not with the team, it's with the expectations that the fans have for this club, and that is what is causing this problem. We're going to talk about why that is here in a second, but before we do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel. Get down in the comments section. I'll take the hate on this one. I don't care. You got to get your expectations in line. Get in the comments section. Let me know what you think. You can also leave comments on Twitter at PitchsidePub and check out the website pitchsidepub.com. So what do I mean by the expectations? It's the expectations that Amorim was going to come in and have immediate success. He runs a completely different style than any of the players on this club have played and are built for. And everyone's tired of hearing he needs his own players, but it's true, it matters. I've already done a video on this about how fans and the organization needs to have more patience with him. Luckily, most of this noise is coming from the fan base. I don't think the management, the Manchester United management, is getting rid of Amorim anytime soon. This is just coming from the fans. But what the fans say matters. This noise matters. This lack of patience matters. And it does more in English football and in the sport of football, but particularly in England, than in any sport anywhere else in the world. Fan uproar matters, and it's worse at Manchester United than anywhere else, and I've talked about this a lot in a lot of different cases, but especially in these kinds of cases, because the punditry circles and all the guys on TV and the biggest pundits in the country, half of them are former Red Devils and former players, and everybody harkens back to the glory days under Sir Alex Ferguson and says, well, that's the standard, and he's not meeting that standard. Well, no shit! What'd you think was going to happen? He was just going to roll in and all of a sudden be good with somebody else's players and not enough training in between a packed fixture schedule to get the guys up to speed and just miraculously, I'm a good manager, so I'm going to make all these guys better? That's not how it works. That's not how anything works. You're dealing with a bad roster, frankly, for any manager. This is a mid-table roster. I don't care what's been spent. This is a mid-table roster. Rasmus Højlund is not getting it done. Another guy who is being doomed by the expectations. He's not a bad player, but he wasn't ready to be a striker every game in, game out at the Premier League level, especially on a club that's not going to give him enough service, and that price tag has damned him from the start. Casemiro was a terrible purchase. Ugarte is just okay, but cost a lot of money. They have spent a ton of money on guys who are not contributing. Mason Mount has been hurt. I mean, the list is endless. This is a bad roster. This is not a roster that is a Champions League roster. Now, I get some of the complaints about Ruben Amorim, and I'll be very clear about that. The one in particular that was evident over the weekend was his propensity to have the center back be the receiver of the first pass in the build-up from the goalkeeper, and the fact that has led to mistakes. And one of the arguments in defense of Amorim was, the players made a bunch of mistakes that led to goals, and that was the problem this weekend. Well, that's true, but players make more mistakes when they're put in a position, bad position. So I do think he needs to adjust that. I don't think that's going to work. It certainly isn't going to work with the players he has now, but he may run into a problem with having a center back do that build-up. He may need to spread them out the way you would be in a 4-back set, where you have the fullbacks and then you have the spread out center backs, but that can even be done in a 3-back set. There are plenty of ways to do that. But again, is that a fireable offense? Right? That's not why you fire a manager. This is ludicrous. And that's the problem, is the fans have a different goal in mind than Ruben Amorim and Manchester United do this season. I got into this debate on Twitter, which was, I have said that there is absolutely no need for Ruben Amorim to make any major adjustments to his system this year. The calls for Ruben Amorim have been, you've got to ditch a back three. Nobody can win with a back three in the Premier League. That is so inherently stupid. That can't be true in any way, shape, or form. Oliver Glasner's having a good year in a 3-back, in a 3-4-3 system at Crystal Palace. Yeah, they're mid-table, but that's about where they should be with that talent. You can do it. Xavi Alonso, he's not in the Premier League, but he just won the Bundesliga with a 3-back set. They made a run in Europe. They're a good squad. It can be done. That is just a ridiculous statement. There's no fundamental reason why you can't play with 3 at the back in the Premier League. Can you play with 3 at the back with these players? No, clearly that's not working. But the goal this season in bringing Ruben Amorim shouldn't have been, let's make adjustments so that we can get the most out of these current guys who probably won't be here next year, so we can be 9th instead of 12th, or we can be 10th instead of 14th. Why is that a goal? Who does that help? A few fans who don't want to have their Saturdays ruined? Get the hell over yourself. You don't matter. I'm sorry. They don't care about you. Making you happy right now is not the goal. Getting a couple more points so you don't hate the world today and rant off on Twitter is not the goal. If you think that's the goal, you are too into yourself. It doesn't matter. The goal this season for Ruben Amorim was to figure out who on this roster can play a role in the future. Who can be a part of his system? Who can be a part of his team? Who has the ability to grow into this? The Kobe Mainus, the Amases, the Ahmads, the younger guys, Lady Euro, getting him as many minutes as possible to learn how to play in this 3-back system, because he's young and he was expensive and he's probably not going anywhere. So he needs as much experience as possible. That is the goal. Keep guys healthy, get him experience, and figure out who the hell might have a future here. Josh Zirkzee was all but written off, and until he hurt his hamstring against Newcastle, he was starting to have a little redemption arc here, right? He was starting to play better. He has proved to himself that he might have a role on this team. Who would have thought that when he was under Erik ten Hag and couldn't get a run of games? So that's the goal, is to figure out who has a future on this club. And the difference between 10th and 14th place doesn't matter. I know it makes for shitty weekends. I know it makes for a frustrating year. But it's the only way to get out of this. It's the only way to get out of this redundant, pathetic, stretch that Manchester United is in. And if that means wearing it for a little bit more this year, so be it. The goal was not to win this year. The goal was to figure out a long-term solution, to have a coach who can be there for 7 or 8 years. Everybody talks about Sir Alex Ferguson, and yet he didn't have immediate success when he came in. In today's day and age, he might not have made it to his 2nd year with the patience that this fan base lacks. Ruben Amorim coming in mid-year, which I would tell you he's probably thinking that was a mistake. I should have stayed the year and won another Portuguese league with Sporting, and then gotten a big job after that. But he made the jump, so be it, and he had to know. And if I'm Ruben Amorim, I had that discussion with Jim Ratcliffe and the others, saying, hey, we're not going to be good. I'm not going to come in and fix this right away. I need to know I'm going to get another year out of this, and that we got to get some of my players. And it's not just about getting his players in and getting players that fit his style. I know nobody wants to hear it, but that's a real thing that matters. But more importantly, even the players he has have to learn his style. That is so hard to do on the fly mid-year. Now, does Amorim need to make some adjustments? Yes, of course. But you don't hire a guy like that and then make him fit your mold, make him go 4 at the back. No, the guy plays a 3 at the back. He plays a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1. If you didn't want to do that, you don't hire him, right? So you got to stick with what he knows. That's what he knows. That's what you hired him for. Get him the players that work, have the patience, and let's build this thing out. But the complete lack of patience, the ridiculous expectations, and the general philosophy that he should be changing his style to eke out a couple more points this season for Manchester United so they can be just a little bit less embarrassing but still win nothing and still clinch nothing and still not have any place in Europe next year is utterly insane and accomplishes nothing other than shutting a few people up who probably would find something to complain about anyway. So fans, you are now the problem, right? There are a lot of problems at Manchester United. The Glazers are terrible. Jim Ratcliffe is a disaster. Their player recruiting has been bad, bringing in Dan Ashworth for a ton of money and then getting rid of him immediately. The whole organization is clearly a mess. But the fans, the fan base, you are not doing yourself any favors. You are not making it easier for this club to succeed. And it is your expectations and your reactionary attitude and your lack of patience that are going to make it worse for Ruben Amorim. Get in that comment section. I'm ready for it. I don't care. Get in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. You can also leave comments on Twitter and Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub. Hit that subscribe button for me down below. Even if it's a hate follow, I'll take it. And make sure you check out the website, pitchsidepub.com. Thanks for joining us here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.